Welcome to the Dealmakers Podcast. The Dealmakers is a platform for leaders in the commercial real estate industry where they can share their personal stories, business insights, and industry secrets because we believe in spotlighting the real people behind the deals. I'm Asaf Raz. Let's go. So we're in another episode of the Dealmakers Podcast. This is season 3, and today I'm super happy to have here Bethany Babcock. Bethany's from Foresight Commercial Real Estate. Actually, Bethany and me met at the gala as well. There's a big gala crowd here coming up in the next few episodes. She's worked in property management, leasing, and investment sales for almost 20 years, and she founded Foresight Real Estate in 2014. Bethany, please take it away. Tell us about yourself. What do you do? How do you do? And why do you like real estate so much?
Sure, that's a lot of questions all wrapped into one. So you gave a pretty good intro there. I've been in the business for about 20 years, kind of fell into it by accident and fell in love with the business. Different parts of it over the years. So I've been really fortunate to do everything from property management and accounting to investment sales to leasing before starting our own full service firm with departments that focused on each of those. And then my passion has really just been making the industry more accessible to people at all different levels of their career and a better place to work, as well as making the industry better. Anything that we touch, we'd like to leave it better than we found it.
That's beautiful. That's amazing. So take me a little bit, with your journey in real estate. Like, how did that happen? How did you get to go to commercial real estate and been doing it for 20 years? Yeah. And then we'll deep dive a little bit into Foresight.
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of a funny story because I started in the industry when I was 18 and I don't have any family connections to it. I knew nothing about real estate and had no family in it at all. I moved to the United States by myself when I was 18, really needed a job to support myself as quickly as possible. So I went to a staffing agency and said, I need something right away. I'll take anything. Temp, permanent, don't care. And they were going to put me on as a temp at a insurance type company. And so I got the little sheet with all the information and went to the interview. And when we got there, we realized there had been some sort of a mess up. I ended up at a family office that owned a lot of commercial real estate, office buildings and shopping centers, a pretty significant portfolio of about 75 properties. And while we were trying to figure out what was happening, we realized this was a mistake. And they said, you know what, it's okay. We're just going to interview you anyways. The position that we're interviewing for is entry level as well. So I ended up getting the job, and I ended up staying there for 5 years. I worked full time during the day, a normal 8 to 5 plus. And then at night, I took night classes to finish my degree and get my degree. And so it was a really cool experience because I got to start at the very bottom, but working in an admin type role exposed me to a lot of different aspects of the business, specifically in this case, property management and accounting. So by the time I graduated college, I had about 5 years work experience in commercial real estate, doing property management accounting, and I ended up managing several of their San Antonio office buildings and shopping centers. So it was a really cool kickstart into the career that all happened, fortunately by accident.
I feel like all the best stories starts with an accident. Yes. Mine too. Like all my marketing story is a complete accident, which I love it. I think it's honestly, it's just like the world leading you to what you need to do. So that's pretty cool. And how did you get to Foresight? Like fast forward, I don't know, how much is it?
Sure.
15 years, 10 years?
Yeah, so right? Foresight's 10 years old.
How did you get to be Foresight?
We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, which is a pretty fun milestone. But we started in 2014. I was working in investment sales. After I left the family office, I went to go do investment sales, selling shopping centers at a major firm, one of the publicly traded ones. And I worked there for 5 years where I met my mentor. And I ended up switching product types from office to retail so that he could mentor me because I could tell he was a good guy, high integrity, and we got along really well. And beyond the mentorship schedule, we decided to continuing working together as partners. So we worked as a team there for another 5 years before a lot of different things happened. And we were two things. One, we were noticing the need in the market for a full service brokerage firm or a leasing and management firm at that time that was very focused on adding value to the properties and understood how to do that, because a lot of the companies that had just done management or leasing didn't really understand the lease structures and how to set it up. And so a lot of our clients were asking for us to do that, and we couldn't because the firm we worked at was focused solely on sales. And so with his encouragement, my mentor's encouragement, he encouraged me to start Foresight. And I was very hesitant for a very long time because I thought I had cut my teeth in investment sales. I was really proud of making it there. It was a really hard start of it. And so I finally did after I had my first kid, and just life in general. I thought, oh my gosh, everything's out of control. Maybe this will help me regain control, which is comedic looking back because you lose every bit of control when you start a business. But it worked out really well in the end. And so in 2014, I left and started it. And after a while, it began to grow to the point it made a whole lot of sense for my mentor and business partners to come over full time. So then when he came over about 4 years later. The company was large enough. We really needed help running it. And then he brought his whole investment sales team over, and we became a full service brokerage firm with investment sales, leasing, and property management.
Wow. What a great build up story for the business. I love that. And what are you focused on today? Like, what does Foresight focus on today? And I know specifically, there's one thing you really want to discuss with this, which is the CRE Launch Program, which I'm super excited to hear about. So take us a little bit about what Foresight does today. How does it help the different players in the industry? And then we'll deep dive into the launch program.
Yeah, so it's interesting because they do go hand in hand. So we are very focused mostly on retail. It's most of what we do. And we are a full service firm, but we are not generalist. So everybody at the firm specializes either in investment sales, tenant rep, landlord rep, or property management and accounting. And so, but we all work together very closely. And so you see that at some companies where they're really large. The only other companies that'll do that, where they have different departments that are siloed, are very large companies. And we get to work together really well. So it's very often that leasing or investment sales will work with property management, be like, all right, the goal is 1 year from now to bring it to the market. Where do we need to trim the fat? Where do we need to improve? If we can get this one lease with this kind of structure, will that add value? Or is that wasted, TI and commissions? And then ultimately bring it to the market, property to the market. So that's really rare, I think, to be able to have that kind of a unique office where everyone can just plug away with the end goal in mind. It's not always to bring properties to the market, but we definitely keep that in mind in everything that we operate, because you never know, things change. And so the end value is always what we focus on with the clients. So that's been great. And what we learned in the process of that is that we really love to teach each other and our clients. We love to talk about what we do. We're all really passionate about it. We're a collection of really experienced people here at the office, especially on the property management and the investment sales side. And so you see these just lots of knowledge stored up. And then, the CRE Launch Program kind of came and evolved from that, because we, in 2020, noticed that there were a lot of students that had been losing their internships because of COVID. And I felt really bad for them. I saw on LinkedIn, they're like, what can I do? I need these credit hours to be able to get my degree and graduate. I can't imagine how difficult that would be in your last semester. So we had been developing our own internal learning management system for training people for brokerage, property management, accounting. And so kind of impulsively, I wrote on LinkedIn, if you've lost your internship and you have any interest at all in commercial real estate, let me know. We're going to open up our internal learning management system and host a virtual internship. And I thought, I logged off, maybe 4 or 5 might be interested, but we'll see. If it helps one, we're good. And I logged in later to find that we ended up having to do 2 back-to-back classes of 20 students. And then the whole company kind of pitched in. And this was during the time when a lot of people were working from home and homeschooling their kids, and chaos was happening everywhere. So at one point we were doing Zoom classes like in our closets, hiding from kids while we're trying to teach classes. It was kind of funny. But what we learned from that was so much fun, because not all of those students had an interest in commercial real estate. But upon graduating, so many of them went into the business. And we were so excited by that. And at that point, we were hooked. And then everybody in the office just kind of was like, all right, we found our groove. We love to teach. We love this industry. We want to educate. And so that has become our thing every summer, that we host the CRE Launch Program. And it's become a lot bigger now than it was before, and a lot more tech savvy. It's not just us on Zoom calls anymore. And so we'll host an in-person one, and then we have virtual campuses as well. We do them in partnerships with other brokerage firms as well as universities. And we have cohorts that attend either remote or in person. And we plug as much information as we can, both through the modules that we use, through the curriculum that we wrote that we call commercial resources, as well as projects, assignments, interviews, mentors, and then guest lectures that come twice a week. So it's a pretty robust program that takes students about 10 to 15 hours a week to go through it all and lasts for 10 weeks. And our goal is to set them up with so much success that when they start their first job in the industry, we've taken some of the front loading burden off of the employer and allowed them to start with a really solid footing and build from there. And that way we increase their odds of getting hired and placed in the industry. And that has proven to be very effective.
That's pretty cool. So you're also not only helping yourself, but you're also helping the students, but also maybe some of your potential competitors or hiring them afterwards.
I know that sounds weird. We do get that question a lot. Like, you're training your competitors. I'm like, yes, we are, because we all play in the same sandbox. And so a better trained workforce works better for everybody. And we feel like it's a way to sow in some goodwill because they're going to be on the other side of a transaction of one of our agents at some point. But also, we're at the same time training our own team and having them compete against the cohort and see where they rank in class makes it such a more dynamic training experience for our own team, where if it's just one or two running through a couple modules and attending a couple lectures is not very exciting. But we have rankings each week that show where everyone is, and they get very competitive. And so it's made a much richer experience for our own people that go through it, as well as the people that we are training that'll eventually go to other firms.
That's really cool. I love that a lot. It's a beautiful education story. And I think that everybody's going to benefit from people educating each other. And we can see that, by the way, at the gala. I've seen it, like every conversation I had, someone taught me something new. And then obviously when you scroll on X with the CRE community on X, I learn something new every day. So I really love that kind of environment and you taking this step forward. At the end of anyone who's going to listen to this, on the bio, I will have all the links if you want to join the CRE Launch Program, if you want to find Foresight, if you want to find Bethany, you'll have all the information links and all that there. Let's take a small pivot into real estate and let's have a conversation about what's going on right now in real estate. What are we seeing? I know every episode I have this conversation about interest rates, about slowdown in deal making, about what's going on in office, right? About what's going on in retail. By the way, I was at ICSC and retail is booming, but we'll have that conversation. I love that. Like, it has a feeling like retail is really going strong right now. But I'd like to hear from you. Like, how are you guys dealing? How is Foresight dealing right now with what's going on in the market? How are you dealing with the decrease in deal flow? And what are you doing to kind of mitigate this situation?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's got several components to the answer. If you look at retail, which is what we focus on, we do a little bit of office, and industrial, but mostly retail. If you look at that product type, the property management has been pretty steady. And what we use there when we look at property management, we really want to look at the data as to tenants, which ones are falling behind, which ones are struggling, so that we can share that data with our team and stay ahead of the market. They're our leading indicator, right? If someone's struggling, if we see nail salons or restaurants, we want to know that really, really quick. So that's something that we share weekly with the team, what's happening, in the market. Then on the leasing side, it's really interesting because the tenant reps are, experiencing stress because they are trying to compete for space, that there is such a limited supply. And they are working extra hard, and they're having to be aggressive and quick and fast. They're having to manage timelines with attorneys and explain that this deal won't exist next week. And so everything is extremely fast paced right now. And the stakes are very, very high because there's not any new inventory coming to the market. We do a lot of new development type properties. We don't do a whole lot of older properties. And so that makes it very competitive because what we've got is about to be leased and it'll be done. And so on the landlord side, it's really interesting because you have this wonderful situation where we look like the belle of the ball because we have inventory and it's going really fast. And you're on the other side of that equation where everyone's kind of courting you. That's not something that landlord reps are used to on the retail side. And it's really fun.
Yeah.
So it's a good time to be a landlord rep for those in our office that specialize in that. But it's also a bit unnerving because they're looking as those vacancies get filled and realizing that they need more to work on, and it's going to dry up pretty soon. So I think we all see that, and we're eager to see construction pricing come down and some financing adjustments so that new inventory can come to the market to fill that need. San Antonio in particular has just been such a popular destination for both national and local tenants, and it's getting a lot of attention, and our rental rates still seem cheap compared to the rest of the market. And so we don't have a whole lot of pushback on rents, even as we're pushing them to make up for construction costs and land costs. And so it makes just a really unique market. Investment sales, whole other story. And that's more of a sad story because the demand for assets is huge. I mean, the buyers are there in droves, and we're seeing a huge amount of buyers even come from overseas. We work with a lot of Mexican buyers. That's where the Spanish comes in handy, and we're able to market properties in that way. But they tend to outbid even the California buyers, but there's no inventory, right? There's so few product coming to the market that we haven't seen these huge adjustments in pricing. And owners typically are wanting to hold because they don't want to get beat up with the way rates are right now. So the only people seeming to do deals right now are doing really large cash transactions. And they are happening, but certainly not to the level that our investment sales team would like to sustain a pipeline. So I think everyone's eager to see the debt be able to be a little bit more reasonable so that deal flow can continue. But there is no shortage of demand. You hear a lot of people looking and saying, I want distress, and I just don't think we're going to see that in retail for the time being.
Yeah, I know. It was definitely something I realized at ICSC, having conversations with a lot of people holding retail. They're just like, yeah, I have tenants. I have people wanting to get into to my either strip mall or any other retail facility, and they're very happy with this current situation. I'm not sure that all the owners are, like you said, like financing is hard. The numbers don't calculate always, especially when we talk about construction costs, insurance costs, right? Land costs, which everything kind of like intertwined with what's happening with interest rates. So it's this whole thing, this whole cycle. It's good for some, it's bad for others. But I feel like, all the conversation till I went up to ICSC was like, yeah, real estate it's a big issue. Like we're going to see a lot of distressed sales, blah, blah, blah. And then I go to ICSC and all the retail owners are super happy. They're like, I don't see a lot of them stressing out because they can increase the rents, because there's a big, big demand into getting into retail space. So it was very interesting. And it's interesting to see, Bethany, that you also get that feeling from the industry too.
Yeah, and I think one thing to note too, and particularly in the market that we focus in, which most of our stuff that we do is in Texas, the leverage amounts that you see in retail properties were pretty conservative before. They never got really that crazy. Yeah. And so where multifamily, you saw syndicators just flood the market, take advantage of cheap debt. The retail ones were pretty conservative and leverage amounts didn't really get out of hand. So yes, they will need to refinance at a higher rate, but the underwriting that I saw when they were acquiring them took that into consideration in most cases. And then I think people underestimate the number of assets that are held in this market, all cash.
Mm-hmm. I had that. I did talk to a few owners recently that once interest rates started going up, they just diverted into cash mostly deals, not necessarily all cash. Some of them also did land deals to create retail spaces on that land. So it was like all cash land, and then they brought in a developer and said, "Hey, you can build this, and we'll share the revenues." So it's pretty cool. Like these trends are pretty cool, and I think they're fairly new to, I'd say, the past 15, 20 years. We didn't see a lot of those happen. So yeah, that's super interesting. So we do have a few more minutes left, and I wanted to make sure that we went through everything you wanted to talk about. Is there anything you wanted to mention about the industry or about the launch program, about Foresight that we didn't hear of?
Sure. Yeah. One thing that I think is really interesting about our company, and that people hear this and they kind of scratch their heads due to the size of the firm now and how much we take up of the market share, we don't use third-party data. And so that is something that a lot of people ask about, how we're able to grow the way we are without using a service like CoStar or other similar services. And that is started as a result of, one, we had a database that we have used for the past 20 years of everybody that owns the properties in our market. And we've tracked every sale, right? So we knew we had all that information already. There was no need to pay for it and then get information that might or might not be correct 50% of the time. And then expanding onto that, as we started doing leasing when we started the company, we were able to gather all the data about who was expanding, what deals were done, and we started building our own database based on the deals we did. And as we continued to grow in the market, that created a really robust internal comp system that we're able to use. And we help appraisers if we, in exchange for that. Texas is a non-disclosure state, so you're not going to find those purchase prices any other way other than calling the buyers and sellers and getting the deal story. And so our investment sales team spends a lot of time doing that. And then Alex in our office is our head of research and an investment sales agent. She spends a considerable amount of time combing the market for what's trading, what's been on the market, how long. So we're able to get really cool data. And so even though I consider ourselves to be pretty low tech, old school in the way that we do business development, we're big fans of cold calling and prospecting still. We're very high tech in the sense that we manage a lot of our own internal data to procure opportunities for our clients. And one thing in particular that I always heard before I moved over to the leasing side was that leasing agents don't answer their phones, and people would complain about that nonstop. And I thought, well, shoot, they should just answer their phones. And it was really easy for me to be very judgmental about it and look down upon them for not answering their phones until I moved into that role. It's easy to say when you have 5 or 6 properties or even 10 or 12, but when you start to do 30, 40, 50, 90 properties, you're getting calls off those signs because a cat got stuck under someone's car, or someone thinks they might want to open a business but doesn't even understand what triple net is. And then buried within all of those calls while you're doing a tour, you might get a voicemail from like a Starbucks or someone else that you actually do want in your center. And you have to filter through all of that while you're doing tours, come back, and then the right people might not answer their phone the next time if you're returning calls. So the way that we came up with fixing that was pretty early on. We hired a full-time agent to be an inbound sales agent and take all the calls. That's a salaried position. The company pays them plus a piece of everything. And they filter through them. How many locations do you have? Where are you looking to expand? Puts it all into our CRM before passing that lead off to the agent. And what that's done is, one, it's helped the agents so they can be more responsive and every single call gets answered. But on the back end, we're collecting an enormous amount of data as to who's expanding where and at what rates. And we're able to map that and track that. And that really adds a lot of value for our clients and also helps us in identifying which projects we do or don't want to work on.
Wow, that's a beautiful strategy. I also think it's fairly unique to the industry. I know how hard it is to take all those calls, so pretty cool. I like that. Okay, Bethany. So always in every episode, I finish up with something I call the shameless plug, okay? This is where you get a chance to talk about your business, yourself, what you're doing right now, what you're looking for. We've had beautiful connections happen through this podcast. We had LPs investing in GPs. We've had investment sales, meeting owners. We've had brokers connecting with each other and kind of exchanging properties and opportunities. So this is your shameless plug. Please be as shameless as you can to explain what you need, what you're looking for right now. And hopefully you'll get more people reaching out to you.
Okay. I would say it's kind of a threefold thing. One, we love representing tenants and helping them expand. And we love it. And tenants are the bread and butter and probably the most important. They are the most important part of our business. So we love representing tenants. We also really enjoy selling properties, investment properties, and mostly retail. And we can do high quality retail nationwide, and we're really good at it. And so if you're looking for someone to help you sell something and not have any pressure, just data and then a impartial opinion on what the value is, we love doing those. And there's no pressure. You're never going to feel like you're going to be pushed into a decision. In fact, we've convinced a lot of people not to sell by introducing other ways that they might be able to add value. And then the third one is I'm looking for people and brokerage firms specifically that can partner with us in opening up campuses each summer and hosting a CRE launch campus at their office with their own team plus other people, and grow the program that way.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Bethany. And thank you so much for joining me
Thank you for
today.
having me.
It was a beautiful episode. I'm excited to hear the full one coming out.
Thank you so much for having me.